The film opens by showing a group of people in an underground gambling arena, and an old man walks in with a man, John Maxwell, telling the others that he caught an FBI agent. They throw him into the pit and unleash the dogs. The old man then begins to attack the other men, and they pull his hair and rip his face off. He appears to be putting on a mask and is revealed to be Malcolm Turner, an FBI agent who is actually John's partner. Then FBI field agents stormed in and arrested everyone there. Sherry, a single mother, sees on the news that a man named Lester, who turns out to be her ex-boyfriend, has escaped from prison and is seen robbing a bank. She tells her son, Jordan, to pack his bags as they are going on vacation. Just as they leave the house, the police arrive at their house and Lester is shown across the street watching Sherry's car drive away. The FBI hold a meeting about catching Lester, and it is revealed that Sherry actually helped Lester while he was robbing a bank. Malcolm and John are assigned to keep an eye on Sherry's grandmother, popularly known as Big Momma. They think Sherry might have to go into hiding at home. The duo arrive and stand in front of Big Momma's house. 4 old ladies, including Big Momma, come to their house with cakes to welcome them to the neighborhood. Malcolm tells John to stall them so he can set up surveillance on Big Momma's house. When the ladies arrive, John tries to stop them, but Big Momma complains that it turns her stomach and says she has to go home. John follows her to her front door in an attempt to slow her down, but she kicks him and runs to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Malcolm hides in the shower near the toilet and escapes when she steps into the tub to shower. Later that night, the duo see Big Momma from the surveillance camera and her phone rings. She tells the caller that she would be coming to the hospital and that she is prepared to stay there for 2 weeks. As she leaves, the duo go to her house, intending to bug her phone, but the phone rings and it turns out to be Sherry. She leaves a voicemail saying she was planning to come, but since she's not home, she wouldn't bother coming. Malcolm then answers the call and acts like Big Momma and tells her to come over. Sherry agrees, and the duo create a mask that makes Malcolm look like Big Momma. Sherry and her son arrive the next day and Malcolm, dressed and looking like Big Momma, welcomes them. Malcolm tries to cook something, but he seems to be making a big mess. John tells her that her face is starting to droop and tries to hide her face from Sherry and Trent while he fixes it. He uses a tape to hold it down and then asks Sherry if she has a problem, but she sees the tape on his neck and asks why there is a tape on his neck. He lies to her and tells her that it is a beauty secret. He serves them food and there is a knock at the door. It turns out to be Ben Roy, an old man who had his eyes on Big Momma. Malcolm tries to get him to leave, but he goes into the house and introduces himself to Sherry. Mr. Roy points out that Big Mommy looks different but says that she looks younger every day. Malcolm follows Mr. Roy outside and tells him that he should use the nicer way to approach a lady next time. Meanwhile, Lester goes to Sherry's house and finds the address of Big Mom's house. One of the neighbors sees Big Momma running home from the house across the street and tells Big Momma that he is watching her. Later that night, Sherry wakes up to Big Momma saying that some people are here to see her. They tell her that one of the neighbors is going to have her baby and since she is a midwife they need her help. At the pregnant woman's house, John tells Big Momma to fool around until the paramedics arrive. Nolan arrives and Big Momma mistakes him for a paramedic, but is revealed to be the pregnant woman's brother. Big Momma then delivers the baby and the paramedics later arrive. Sherry gives Big Momma a necklace saying that if she is gone for a long time, she wants Big Momma to remember her with him. Big Momma asks her about her ex-boyfriend but she doesn't answer. The next morning, Malcolm wakes up to find that the mask is peeling off. She tries to run to her place but Shelley hears noises and looks for where they are coming from. He then takes off his clothes and acts like an electrician. Sherry is introduced as Malcolm and they strike up a conversation. Trent comes out and asks who it is. He then lies that Big Momma has said a lot about him. Malcolm points out that he can take on Trent in Taekwondo and they both face each other and Trent wins. Sherry then walks in with Trent and tells Malcolm that she'll be back to check on him while he works. Later, Sherry and Trent leave the house and John sees them, so he quickly informs Malcolm so that Malcolm goes to his vehicle dressed as Big Momma. Sherry leaves. When they get to a place, Sherry stops the car and tells Big Momma to stay with her friend and she flies away. Her friend tries to give her a gift but other friends of Big Momma arrive and take her away. They take her to the taekwondo training session where she feels strange that Nolan trains them harshly. He then walks into the training ground and beats up Nolan, but Nolan removes his wig. Malcolm thinks he's now got him by the look on his head, but luckily for him, the other women in training also take off their wigs to look like him. They all surround Nolan and give him a good beating. When they return home, Malcolm is still in disguise while Big Momma talks to Trent trying to find out about Lester, but Trent replies that he doesn't know anything and they start talking about what happens at the basketball court Trent went to. Trent says that some old men kick him off the court and Big Momma decides to follow him back to the court to build her confidence by playing with him. When they get to the court, they play with the old guys and eventually win and make Trent very happy. Back at the house, Big Momma admires Sherry's shape when she tries to remove some cloth and Big Momma falls off. Later that day, Malcolm plays the real Malcolm and goes to the Big Momma's house to find Sherry and Trent already going fishing. Trent decides to bring up the idea of Malcolm following them, but Sherry tells Trent that Malcolm has better things to do and that's when Malcolm says no and leaves with them. As always, he messed things up at the river. After finishing fishing, Malcolm and Sherry sit down and discuss. Sherry sees a certain familiarity in Malcolm's eyes, but he tells her that people always have something to say about his eyes. Malcolm then asks her about her last boyfriend and she tells him that most people are not what they say they are. Malcolm also helps Trent catch fireflies, and Sherry begins to have feelings for him. Lester gets a gun and ammo from a guy who wants to collect $200K instead of $100K from him and pulls a gun on him, but he doesn't have the balls to pull the trigger. Lester leaves after scaring him with his meanness. Stare. Back at Malcolm's apartment, Nolan tries to act like an FBI, but Malcolm and John clear this up, telling him that they are real FBI agents and that they are after a hardened criminal and that he should help them keep an eye on the bank. Malcolm then tells him to shut his mouth and promises he can shut his mouth. They might find him a position with the FBI and he leaves home very happy. Sherry starts having a nightmare about Lester and decides to go to Big Mom's room to find solace with her. Get into Big Momma's bed and candles around her. Malcolm, being a great mom, starts to feel uptight and starts to freak out. Sherry talks to Malcolm about his life and everything. The next morning, John wakes up Big Momma and tells her that Nolan needs a gun and maybe a code name and that's why Trent comes in. John quickly hides and Trent tells him they'll be late for church. John comes out of his hiding place as soon as Trent leaves the room and begins to tell Malcolm that he must act fast and get Sherry to confess in the night or else she might be taken down along with Lester. Malcolm sighs. When they get to the church, the Reverend gives the microphone to Big Mom to come out and stand in front of the church and testify. Big Momma stands in front of the church and speaks in a way that moves everyone because she talks about people who keep secrets and proposes that everyone confess the secrets they have so they can be happy, and the whole church stands up for the church song. Happy Day. Big Momma dances and everyone smiles. When they get home, Big Momma approaches the door and hears footsteps in the house. She thinks it's probably Lester and walks in pointing a gun at a group of people preparing a surprise welcome for them from the church. Nolan runs up to her and picks up the gun in her hands, pretending to take it from her so she won't arm it. Big Momma still hears some distress upstairs and decides to go check it out, and it turns out to be Trent. He then tells her to go downstairs and start searching the room. Big Momma finds out that a large amount of money is in savings and Sherry walks in. Sherry says that it was Lester who did it and explains to Big Momma that she had nothing to do with the whole thing. Meanwhile, Lester heads home and mentions that Big Mommy is dying every time he sees it. Big Momma returns to her room to find Ben waiting for her in the Ned and immediately warns him. John sees the original Big Mom arrive in a cab and quickly goes to her to be dropped off, but Big Mom refuses to be late and walks into the house and everyone is happy to see her. Meanwhile, Ma Colm is also in the house playing as Big Momma. Real Big Momma walks into his room and catches Ben in bed with one of his friends. Sherry goes to Trent's room but finds Lester there with him. Nolan locks Malcolm outside to hide the whole secret, but Lester already tells Sherry that they are leaving. Sherry tries to tell the real Big Momma that she is leaving and she says why would she leave now, and when Nolan sees a gun with Lester and realizes that's the criminal. The unprofessional tries to arrest him but fails. John gets involved but gets shot. Malcolm breaks through the window and now everyone sees two Big Mommas. Malcolm fights him and tries to retrain him. As he beats him up, he rips his disguise and everyone sees it's Malcolm. Malcolm takes Lester down for good and the police arrive a few minutes later and catch Lester. Sherry blames Malcolm for being fake and Malcolm tells her that he's just doing his job, but Sherry doesn't listen and leaves. The next Sunday, Malcolm goes to church and stands in front of them to testify. Big Momma hugs Malcolm after his confession and the movie ends with Sherry kissing Malcolm and singing songs in church. I hope you enjoy this recap. If you do, please like, share and subscribe. Encourage me to do more. Thanks.